All right, I'll call this regular board meeting of the Southwest New Brunswick Region Service Commission meeting to order. We have a quorum. And so the next thing would be the conflict of interest declarations. Hearing none, I'll move on to the adoption of the agenda.
We adopt the agenda tonight, but I have one item to add to the new business.
Okay.
I'd just like to add Andrea Foster to be added to the tourism committee, represent Eastern Shore. That position been debated for a while.
Second. You heard the motion from John, seconded by Harvey, to adopt the agenda as circulated with one addition. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next would be the minutes of the board meeting of May 24th, which are in the package.
I'll move that they be adopted as presented.
Motion, is there a seconder? No. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Business arriving from previous meetings. There's nothing on the agenda. I don't think there is anything in the minutes. So hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the draft budget presentation. I'll turn it over to Hollis for that.
You want to take care of his motion first or after?
Oh, I added it at the bottom, but we can do it first if you want. Let's go ahead and do it, then we've got that out of the way and we don't forget.
Yes.
I just need a motion for the board here tonight to add Andrea Foster. She's the executive director of Eastern Chamber of Commerce. Be added to the tourism committee.
Heard the motion from John. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Harvey. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Welcome, Kate. You're just in time. You're okay. You're just in time for the budget presentation. Oh, lovely. All right, I'll turn it back over to Hollis then.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so 2025 draft budget. I've included a copy in the package, and I'm going to go run through that with a little bit of added detail. So our 2025 draft budget, our last census population for the region is 28,472, and that's what I have to go by. That was a 2021 census. 2023 tax base, on which this year's budget was based, was $3,450,253,540. The 2024 tax base is $3,731,086,404, which is an 8.14% increase. That becomes important for certain things, especially when we get to recreation cost share. The way that the billing works for the RSC, I know you're all aware of this, but I'm going to restate it just for the record. So solid waste is fee for service based on the tonnage that you bring us. Our local planning inspection services are based on the tax base of the local government in proportion to all the other local governments that are receiving the service. So if somebody's not receiving service, they don't enter into that calculation. Economic development and tourism promotion is based on local government tax base in proportion to the region as a whole. And community development, transportation, or any other service that we have is based on local government tax base and the population in proportion to the region. And that's a 50-50. New there. So in summary, the revenue that we are projecting for 2025 is a little more than 2024. But only by it's like $110,000. out of our $8.7 million budget. So solid waste is going up a little bit, as we know. Local planning is slightly increasing, but not even as much as inflation is. Cooperative and regional planning, roughly about the same. Increase in tourism promotion and increase in regional economic development. And those are because those now that we have things underway, there's a cost to the things that we were doing. And I'll get into those details a little bit later. Community development, again, is a little higher, but it doesn't necessarily translate to increased member contributions. This is overall what our budget is, including all government contributions. Regional transportation, 173,000, yes, considerably more than last year, and there's a specific reason for that, which I'll touch on when we get to that one. And public safety committee is roughly about the same. Regional sport, recreation, culture, infrastructure, support, and development, so that's our cost sharing, is a little slightly less than last year overall, but it's important to note that will be an increased amount going to each municipality because there's less overhead in that budget. So I'm just going to flip through each one of these. Sort of. So in solid waste for 2025 compared to 2024. All right, so the expenses. So the total budget expenses are basically they equal the amounts that I just did, so we have a balanced budget at zero. And one of the budget items that we have is our corporate services. That will cover things like administration, your CEO salary, your accounting salary, all that kind of stuff. And because there's no revenue generated associated with our corporate services, what we have to do is allocate that to each service in proportion to how much of those services are used. So the allocations you see there before you, they're really not a lot different than last year.
Are they connected to each department they're being connected to, like they actually are?
Yeah, so like I say, our accounting department does the accounting for each one, right? So we split up that expense. That's one example. Me, I'm an expense.
And you would touch everything, yeah.
Right. That's what that is. So in solid waste, a little bit more detail. On the revenue side, year over year comparison, there's considerably more. I mean, the actual difference is 5,041,000 compared to 4,932,000 last year. It worked out to a 2.2% increase overall. But the tipping fees portion from members is going up considerably. For 2025, as you all know, we've discussed this.
But that's a anticipated number because you know the piece up.
It's
So if there's less weight, it's going to be less cost to our municipalities, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, these are solid waste is an estimate.
Okay.
It's based on the volumes we're seeing right now. ICI is up because it's the same tipping fee. Tipping fees for C&D are about the same. Other RSCs are up a little bit because they are getting an increase. And our foreign waste is up a little bit. There was a small increase for foreign waste as well. The other ones are roughly the same except for recycling. So now we are seeing much more revenue from recycling. It's not, compared to the overall budget, it's small, but it is a help because in recycling, not only are we getting the revenue, we also don't have the expense of trucking that we had previously, which was actually more than that.
So much should we save just in the trucking? You're not doing trucking, what was the saving on that?
150 a year. So that's, that's about what that has meant to us. What you're seeing the big difference here is that in 2024, we had a big surplus coming into that year from previous. And since the business changed, our surplus going into 2025 is much smaller. That's why we had to make up the difference. On the expense side of solid waste. There's not a lot of big, I mean, there's no big plans and there's not, most of this is just straight up inflation. If there are higher costs. The only big thing that's happening next year is you'll see capital expenditures from operations is lower. Even though we are scheduled to buy a compactor. And the reason is we're going to be taking a much larger piece out of our reserve fund to do that.
Sorry, guys, I'm gonna ask a lot of questions here, but I'm struggling with the increase based on. I know that the dynamics, we have to have the same amount of employees to do the work. Which is what I'm being told, but why is it an increase if we're handling less waste? Like, I just can't see why we can't cut that back.
Well, there's cost of living increases for one thing.
Right,
That landfill operations isn't just wages either, so that there's fuel, there's insurance.
which all should be less,
Why would it be less?
because you're not compacting as much material anymore, less I can go on, but just, we're doing less work, even though there's the same manpower, you're doing less work. So the things should slow down some.
A little bit less work. I think where we're gonna see the bigger savings is right now. We're finishing up cell 13. And the under drains have been built in. So what's gonna happen is our construction is gonna slow down significantly from, starting next year, we're gonna be able to slow down. We've got enough space there now. It's just the way it worked that when we started that new row, we had to build that cell 11, which is a small cell because it's shaped like a pyramid. It's on the end. And then we built 12, which is a much bigger one, and then 13 is what we're finishing. And those two are actually connected, 12 and 13. That gives us a lot of space there to work with so that we can now start slowing down on construction, which is where we're going to start realizing much bigger savings moving forward.
But we won't see that this year.
Well, no, we got to finish it. We had to put in the liner because, so we're finishing up the liner now. And once that's done, then they can sit there and hold that. We don't have, there's no rush. And what we have done and what we're going to do going forward, there was no overtime this year. So we're not in a hurry to build anything. So there's no rush to do things. So we cut out that stuff.
So can we, that's something I hate doing, but if we're anticipating big savings next year, but not building cells, can we use more reserve this year and bring that down? Because you're anticipating.
We could. We could chip away the reserve more.
Because you're gonna pad it back up next year. And I'm only one person out here, and it's up to you guys. We can keep rolling on that.
We could chip away, and the other thing that you're not seeing here, I can't budget for it here, but I may have a little bit of attrition. That's not going to be that though. But I can't budget for that because
Just can't wait.
yeah. So that's not going to be a huge help, but it definitely is. And just for comparison's sake, even though our tipping fee is going to 110, St. John is at 125 this year. I don't know what their next year's figure is. Moncton's at 119 this year. I don't know what next year's is. Fredericton is right around the 110 mark now. I don't know what next year's is. So we're not out of line with what we're charging. It's kind of what it costs. It's just that for years we've had the benefit of having subsidy from foreign waste,
Which we're missing. So I know we're making up for it, yeah.
I can tell you too, that I've done a scan and I've worked with staff that are intimate with Washington County, which is where we have approval to get waste from. To see if there's something we're missing over there, if there's some customers we could go see and that kind of thing. And basically, what I can tell, Washington County, all of their waste either goes to us or that one.
Place in Denver.
Marion,
One
or
there.
Arcus, yeah, Marion that comes to us, or Castillo, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Marion comes to us, so Marion Transportation does come to us.
So the local places they don't actually pick up on their kind of like a lot of them are small trucks and private services and they go to Marion or.
Yeah,
Most of them go to Marion and our circle will say, and then you get down the other side of the Chias, they go to the other place.
Yep.
Which we used to get, right? That's where we're.
that's right. That's right, but we do see a lot of direct haul trucks, from like, Moose Island, CNC, people like that. They come straight to landfill. Without issue, but anyway, I've done a scan of all of the, local governments over there. And, just to see, and our staff know them all quite well for, the last 28 years. And we kind of went through and no, if it's not going to the Casella, it's coming to us.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else that it's going, so. And there'd be no convincing Casella trucks and collection to come to not Casella landfill. Just doesn't make sense for them, so.
Do they figure they have to use theirs? Cause it'd be a longer truck, wouldn't it? For
Oh, it
those
definitely
guys
is.
to Orno to here than here.
It definitely is, it's Old Town.
Would we be, yeah, would we be better off to offer them a cut rate to get some of the money? Or would we just be doing too much work to do it that way? Or maybe they can, maybe that's part of the deal, they have to use their own, I don't know, but.
I tried to open a conversation with them in the past.
Some money's better than none, as long as it doesn't cost us money to do it, I think what I'm
And
saying.
never say never, but
I don't know what they're,
Just gonna run into the right person maybe or something, that's how that works sometimes.
yeah, if it's their own landfill. They can better manage, I suppose, the cost because they don't have to. Cover all the other expenses, maybe there's some of that in there. I don't know, what their environmental regulations are like over there. I suspect they're similar, but I don't know for a fact.
I'm just thinking it must be 2.5 hours for them to get to their landfill. I'm not even knowing exactly where it is compared to maybe 2 or maybe an hour and 45 minutes or something, probably a year. If they went right straight kind of thing.
Yeah.
it's, I'm not shutting the door on it. And it's certainly something worth a lot more intensive kind of investigation into over the next while, and maybe there is some opportunity there. One of the other issues is that we're actually getting less waste from here. And we're seeing that across the province, and what that is actually an early indicator of what the economy is doing. So if you have less garbage, it's an early indicator. We're seeing in our planning department that building permits, they were climbing up and up for years, but now they're plateaued. So I'm assuming that, in a year or two, that will follow. Unless the economy, makes a big shift.
We're building do that.
I am wondering though that Alan's point, if it is worth during our comment period, having another look at the expenses here. Because if we are having less waste, that would lead me to believe that maybe we don't need as many hours to be receiving waste at facilities while we have. So I don't know if there's some savings or if there's some way with the capital purchase or whatever, but I do think it's worth going back. Just based on what the rest of the budget looks like as well, I think that's really where my concern is. It's not maybe so much exactly in solid waste, but we're up across the board on everything. And so I just think we need to make sure that we sharpen our pencil as much as we have, or as much as we can. Is that fair?
Not fair point. Yeah, and maybe at our next committee meeting, we can have a deeper dive into at least this part of our business.
Yeah. I think it would be good to have a look at, if we're not spending as much on cell creation, how that might be reflected in the budget for the year following. That may have an impact on, a positive impact on our tipping fee. That we can charge in future years, just a thought.
Sounds good.
Kind of do like a No, effective what 2026 is looking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna work, yeah, I like that.
That's good. Anybody else on the solid waste or we? We've got one to do. Yeah. let's move on to the next one.
So, local planning. Not really much change here. I know, I don't like this one, but I know that lots of people like to look at how much, per hundred of assessment planning and inspection costs are. They are going down slightly. Mostly not because, it's not because planning became cheaper, it's because your assessments went up. More than anything. So they're slightly down. And the cost for planning and inspection is roughly the same. There's no plan changes or personnel changes or anything there.
So that's connected directly to assessments.
Yes.
So as we grow, this grows.
No. So this is the cost for us to run the service. Remember, we run like we're a nonprofit.
Right.
So it's the assessments are how we apportion out the money. Right. So if St. Stephen grew twice as much as St. Andrews did, then your planning bill is going to grow twice as much as St. Andrews.
Well, that's how you figure out who's taking a piece of the pie. I
Right.
got you. I got you.
Right. But the cost is the cost. That's just the cost of running the planning service.
It's a horrible game, man. The better you grow, the more you pay.
Yeah.
Takes the incentive away, but
Good there.
I guess so.
So Faulkner regional planning, essentially is no different year to year. The difference is that there's bigger fees for members, and that's because we had a big surplus last year. That's the only reason. It's essentially exactly the same thing.
here's like $300 difference.
Regional tourism promotion. So the total budget with revenues, including RSSF and tourism, PHC's contribution. There's a little bit from McCullough. There may be others, but I can't budget for them. So total is coming in at 575. Expenses, of course, balance that out as well. And the next page here actually has a detail of
So what's the
What we're doing.
why it went up?
this year was a setting up year. Next year is a doing stuff year. So
Yes, big number there.
I can tell you that we're in line or on the low end of what everybody else in the province is doing when it comes to this and economic development and community development.
So what did we do differently? Or what are we doing differently this year? Like, what am I getting out of this year compared to last year? And we're paying going from 328 to 575. Like, what are we getting? Size building like this.
So, like I said, this year was about setting up, getting the website launched, getting the things in place that need to be in place in order to move forward with all the activities. So some of the activities include our campaign development, campaign, our media buys and the ad placements. We haven't done a lot of that, so that's a fairly significant chunk of that. BAM tour sponsorships, there's some hosting costs, there's a paid media partnership that we have with Tourism in New Brunswick. There's some paid media and influencer partnerships. There's a phase 2 of the website, which will include more interactive component. There's the regular website hosting fees. There's some travels, trade registration fees and industry association fees, because we're part of the foreign international travel and the whole. It's more about the wholesale trade than it is the retail stuff. There's the I did take out that we were going to do increased analytics that we talked about, so that's been removed. I cut down the amounts on that we discussed at our last meeting on the other items. There is our niche cruise port action plan. There's some consultant fees that have to go along with that. There's some licensing fees for Crowd Riff, which is part of how we get the content for our ads and our media. There's gonna be some printing costs for the travel guide, the maps, the visitor guide. There's the marketing video. There's some video post-production editing, so we're getting a lot of raw footage and a lot of good video done. But then afterwards, we have to take that apart in different pieces and make it into different videos, so there's costs there. Possibly summer student. So that's.
So how much of that is our money at this $575,000? How much of that is ours and how much is the Roths? Is this all us?
257.
No. 257 is from us.
257.
RSSF is gonna be 242. We've got 70,000 from THC and a close of a little bit.
What did we pay last year?
137, 505, so we're over 100 or 120,000
On
more.
our piece.
So yeah,
Which is a provincial role here.
yeah. I don't know how much that figures out per person. I mean,
There's another aspect to that too. And it's the fact that the RSSF money, when we take it in from the government or from the province, it has to be matched dollar for dollar by the region. I'm correct in that,
Per activity, actually, yeah.
per activity. So
So,
you have to spend the money to get the money.
right. So I didn't
So
look
there's that
at
aspect.
everybody's, but I happen to notice on Campbell, maybe Carlos might have just mentioned this a minute ago, both the retail versus whatever, but I noticed none of our restaurants or anything are on it. Is that an overlook on our part, maybe,
Probably not there yet.
or just not there? Okay, that's what I was wondering, because those are, I mean, I know we've got a couple manufacturing, but everybody's looking to eat or whatever, and then I noticed there was another, I was thinking, well, you're kind of missing the boat here, kind of thing, but. And I was gonna mention it, and of course, like I said, I haven't been here for a while, so.
Most of us older people, if we're going traveling, that's
That's
one
what
of
you're
the key
thinking
things
about it.
we're
Yes,
going
yeah.
to is where are we gonna go eat when we get there, so. That's a big point.
I
And I-
understand about the money matching from the RSSF. But this category has almost doubled in this budget,
It's $1 million, or,
like. Well, from 140 to 260, we're getting pretty close to a doubling. And we had talked at one point, I think it was Brad that suggested it, like getting a list of what some of the achievements have been, like that we've seen so far from some of this. And maybe that would help try to understand what value we're getting from the money. Like, that's what I'm struggling with right now. Not that I don't think things are being done. But are we seeing enough benefit from this to double what we're investing in it year 2 and 3? That's, I guess, bottom line where I am.
and I'm with you.
The problem is, how are we gonna know until everybody gets their tourism numbers in, and if it's better than last year, well, hopefully this is the reason, right?
Yeah, but how can it be? Because we haven't even done anything with it yet. We've only building it.
Well, we've got the website and stuff, all we can hope is that that brought people in, am I right?
Well, that doesn't happen automatically. There's
No, no.
there's a lot of work to make that work, which is what all of this other stuff is.
Right.
All the social stuff, all the influencer stuff, all that kind of stuff.
I'm like you guys, I'm trying to justify
But
but my brain,
I want to manage some expectations here because it has to be relative because tourism numbers are down and they're going down for the same reason the garbage is going down. So it would be a relative kind of comparison of our region to either other regions or the ones that are as a whole to, or our region to say, I don't know, a comparable region in Quebec or Ontario.
But if tourism is going down as a whole, is this a smart place to invest our money? If there's a limited number of travelers that are traveling, how many of them are we realistically going to be able to attract to the area? Like, have they already made their plans? Are they, if instead of having 20,000 people coming to New Brunswick, there's 10,000, are we gonna be able to reach into that 10,000? Is it worth investing this much extra money to try to do that?
There's two things with tourism. There's your straight up return on investment, so travelers come and spend money in the region.
Yeah.
The other part of tourism is promotion of the region as a whole for other like professionals, people that would travel, right? And so that's the other hard to quantify benefit of it. And I mean, I would submit that if tourism has been dwindling because of economic reasons, that's when you need to spend more to maintain what you have and keep momentum going.
Is there such a thing as a saturation point where there are only so many people that could be accommodated by what we have? Is there somewhere a number that we could say this is the number of tourists that would be the maximum we could attract for our region? And figure out where we are in relation to that number?
Now, occupancy rates, so St. Andrews is arguably close to saturated. It seems that way.
Right.
Like, it's pretty hard to get a accommodation in St. Andrews, like downtown St. Andrews. But everything else that is either an Airbnb or a small cottage and things like that, there's lots of vacancy up there.
Okay. So vacancies are there,
And that's probably, and Grand Inn too, actually, is our other main
You
one.
couldn't get a place.
You can get your Airbnb on Green End, so.
We
We had people that were commuting like for meetings over 3 days from the mainland, coming on the first ferry, going back.
The little motel home when you first go on the island was 99.3% occupancy or something, she told me, and then all the little places seem to be pretty full. The big motel, I won't say it's full every night, because it did look like less cars at times, but we've been pretty busy, but it don't seem like it's as busy as it usually is as far as the traffic or something, I don't know.
Typically, actually, because I've been involved in tourism in St. Andrews, typically, election year in the States, you get the Americans don't travel as much. And you look at the numbers over the years.
Okay, we're home watching those crazy debates.
Well, they stay close to home election year. You look all the years, and it always was that way in St. Andrews.
That's another thing, by the time we get this election done and our federal election, hopefully next year, it all could change again. It only takes gas going down a little or something going down, and then the people making spending money.
Exchange rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And disposable income, which we know it's right now, the reason it's down, in my opinion, is it's the average household of 4 people is, I think I'm hearing the number $11,000 more a year to live. So you have there's your travel money and then some. So that's gonna start, we're gonna start seeing the repercussions of that.
Right.
So, but back to I see both sides of this, because I see if let's say we had 20 and we're only expecting 10, but would we get 10 if we didn't do this? You know, that there you gotta, I see that side, but I also see why invest.
Well, like
We're gonna get 10 anyway.
Paula said, this is maybe the time to spend money, we make it 40, but it's kind of a gamble.
But tonight we're not passing the budget, and all we're doing tonight really is passing it on to our councils now.
That's right.
Tonight, so, I mean, let's have more conversation from our councils too. I think. So, we could talk about this all night.
Well, that's not true, because we know all has to do homework. And if we say if he gets a female room that, let's say we want to cut that down $100,000, he's still gonna get somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, so we are done by October. But yeah,
Anything else on the front? Okay.
You want?
what are we doing?
So economic development. The fees for members actually didn't change a lot on this one. We've successfully got a little more money in here. This includes our Department of Health funding, which is our community promotional funding. Our pedal money, which is, there are specific activities that are related to that we have to do in our SSA. Plus, the budget overall includes, like, for instance, the business summit that we were at. So that budget includes both the income and the expense from that, right? So that's need to be taken into account too. That's where there's $100,000 of sponsorships and fees. That's like the ticket sales and the sponsorships and things that the business on.
Did you measure the win? I mean, obviously, there's some good benefit from that, but we went out of that summit. It was a great summit, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, but what's the return? Did you guys sit down and do a post meeting after and say, okay, what we accomplished by doing this?
Yeah, it was definitely taken apart, and there's still, I don't have all the data yet. But a lot of it comes from, so most of the speakers would have, they collected names and you remember that, you know, give me your email address, I'll give you a free book or whatever it was. So once we gather all that data together, we can get a much better picture of participation rates and, yeah, so that's going to be, next year's summit will be probably better, but more efficient, if that makes more sense. I think there's a lot of lessons learned.
Can I make a request for next year? Can you try to plan it a week later?
Actually, it's gotta be earlier.
Well, that's fine too, but it was the last week of lobster season.
Yeah, I know.
I know just me and my wife, there's only two people, but you know what I mean? We could have been there, or I could have been there or whatever. And
Yeah, it's actually gonna be earlier next year.
oh, that means, okay.
I understand.
No, it's later,
But yeah, the person to actually speak to the success of it and the outcome and all that and everything else is not me, it's probably Charlie.
So what's the main increase here? Like we're going from 526 to 772.
Mhm.
So what's causing the increase?
Again, same thing, it's these are some of the activities that pays for. So regional HR community training, regional business training, the summit itself, the social media, the regional promotion, the job fairs, the workforce development contracts. So we have a contract with PHRS and they provide support to all the small businesses in the region. There's a buy local campaign, which this year's hasn't started yet. Variety of healthcare recruitment. There's the welcome package development. That's in the works, but it hasn't been developed yet. So it's for newcomers. And that's all about retention, and that was one of our mandates was retention.
So
So the actual fee that changes for us, it goes from 107 to 124.
17,000.
Yeah,
I just see so much duplication here. Like I'm talking from my municipality to here. Like I'm looking at when you go back to your screen there, you're just on there, Hollis. Like I've got, you know, welcoming packages, like, you know, but if you're doing that, why am I doing it? And I can go down that list on a few of those things. Like, and that's questions we get asked is here's the list and what's the regional doing for us. But stuff that if we're paying for here, I don't want to pay for it there. Yes, is my point. I'm struggling with that. And not me speaking, when I say I'm struggling, I'm representing the people that are struggling with it, but. Like.
Well, there's a clear delineation of what we do regionally for economic development, and you know, and we've been through this down this road.
Yeah, no.
We have a whole meeting about it, you know.
But why should I pay for it?
Regional, you know,
That's my point.
regional and local. And I guess, I mean, my suggestion would be don't pay for it locally.
Yeah, but you're not doing enough.
If I have to do it, why would you do it too? But yours are gonna be specific to St. Stephen, these are regional. We work with all the chambers of commerce, work through all the chambers of commerce for all of the economic development activities as well.
That's one of the challenges that I think some of us that don't have active chamber of commerce see. And I don't think I'm the only municipality that kind of falls in that group. Right, it's because we don't have active chambers, we're maybe not as represented in some of these things as areas that do.
Is that something that a question that you want to ask and address and see You wanna go down that road? Cause that's possible too.
Well, I think it's worth a conversation because I understood that we had our economic development committee. And that would be their role is to do some of this stuff versus going through the chambers of commerce, because we all have a representative on that committee. Which I think would give us a broader base sort of representation there versus a chamber of commerce. Like I'm looking, for example, at the healthcare recruitment things, which is a huge issue on Graham and Ann. But I also know that there's really no one from the Eastern Charlotte Chamber of Commerce. She's very new. I met her this week. But she's not going to be able to speak to some of those issues like someone from our own council that's sitting on that committee could. To make sure that those things are being thought of and being recognized there.
Well, I don't think that the Chamber of Commerce, it doesn't mean that the Chamber of Commerce does all of this stuff. And so the healthcare recruitment site visits, that's something that we facilitate. But it'd be the appropriate person for whatever that is. So in your case, it would be a committee member, or somebody from Graham and Ann. It wouldn't necessarily be Chamber of Commerce. One idea that's been tossed around, and I am not going to say I'm in favor one way or the other, it doesn't actually even matter to me. But there has been talk of a regional Chamber of Commerce.
Pretty near that way now. Like when you go to, like our last chamber golf tournament we had. I mean, St. Andrews was there, St. Stephen was there, like it. I actually St. George people were there. So, yeah, yeah, so, yeah, it's pretty near there. But again, I mean, they're separate from the municipalities, they pay their own fees. Like it's
Separate thing. So I mean, they're kind of our conduit for us, for our economic development into the business world, because they care less about municipal boundaries than that's not what they're concerned with, which, fair enough.
Not even sure where we are on this.
just, yeah. That numbers, I guess.
I think we should move on because we need to get through this budget for tonight to approve the draft to go out. But I think I'm back on the sharpening the pencil piece again. And so I think we need to have that conversation, our next committee of the whole meeting, like what else is there that we can sharpen? Is that fair?
Community development. Again, yes, the budget's gone up, but so has the inputs. And this is be from not just RSSF, but economic social inclusion has kicked in for other projects that we have on the go. JPS, that's the resiliency funding. And again, more sponsorships. And the fees are going to be up a little bit. But the expenses really aren't. It's just because there's more, again, more activity that was planned for, that was part of the strategic plan, part of what we were doing. This also includes the grant writer. So we funded that 50% this year, but I'm budgeting that we're funding it 100%. Now we're going to have more information from that position of what that's resulted in and whether or not it was that's a fairly easy one to quantify for return on investment. So we will see that.
I think that would be a good conversation to have maybe in a committee of the whole meeting, because it borders on a personnel type of situation,
Right.
Recognizing that we are live. But I think it's a conversation we need to have, given the expense around that. And that was one of the things that we talked about at the 50% mark, is looking at where we were after the first year.
Just a question. Every other increase for wages was CPI at 3.5%. And I noticed this one is budgeted at 5%. Is that a typo, or is
That's a
that
typo.
that is a typo?
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious about that.
Yeah, so That's the other thing, our cost of living increases are always based on 3-year running average in CPI. I don't know what that is, so for safety's sake, we budgeted at 3.5%. I don't know where it's gonna land, I suspect it's less. So community development will include, the action priorities that USIC, has laid out, that's why they pay us the money they pay us. It's the community capacity and resiliency priorities that have been laid out. There is some regional training, workshops, there's a couple of data, like right now, we're doing a transportation scan, we had a little bit of funding for that. There is some communications and regional access to service. There's a whole bunch of small projects that get run through community development. But he also works with economic development and THRS for the board governance thing. Leadership development, there's a grant writing workshop coming out, things like that.
So, I understand that there's funding, the carrot, with all that, but why can't we just take the carrot and not put any of theirs in with us and just do what we can do with what they're giving us? Why do we need to match?
Well, we definitely need to match the RSSF with something.
Right, and that kind of goes, yeah, I kind of get that.
I mean, out of 365, it's only 61 for members. I matched this RSSF with actual other government money. So we did it. So regional transportation. It's a big jump, but it's really important to note that we don't have to spend this money. This is dependent on if and when we're successful with that, if a large grant from the feds. We needed our own input into that. And if it doesn't get spent, it's just surplus that point, and we roll into reserve, we'll do something else with it, but we don't spend it, we don't spend it. That's why the money is there mostly.
Yeah, this is just a 1-year increase because of that grant. Right?
Because of that, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that you're seeing here is that USIC has increased the grant to Dial-A-Ride. So that's money in and out.
Still, the fees for members is going from 3,000 to 84,000.
That's because of what I said, the federal grant.
So
That's the one my guy's gonna have a problem with, because regional transportation kind of hard where I'm at.
But yeah, remember, this is where we're all gonna work together.
No.
Possibly buses, and I guess that has to be explained to the, if we can get to 8 buses or 2 buses, 3 buses for all Sharon County.
Could be wheelchair accessible minivans,
Yeah.
it could be, I don't know. I don't know what it actually looks like. We'll figure that out when we figure out what we
So
got.
the what was the amount like they're gonna give and what we have to give, is it 50/50 or what is it?
The grant is 838,000.
Right. So we more than likely we're gonna get more than 1 bus if we get that.
And we don't have to take all of it, right? So we don't have to do all of it either.
So if we were unsuccessful, just based on what we normally would contribute for regional transportation, if we leave that amount in as a surplus, we're gonna be years eating that up. Can that be returned to the members at the rate that we paid it in? I don't know what the rules are around that. That's just
Pretty good idea to me, Bonnie.
I have them every once in a while. I'm just thinking, I mean, I understand why we're paying it in.
Yeah.
But if we don't need it, that's money that's sitting there for 10 or 12 years that, okay, we aren't gonna have to pay in, but it would be.
Used to reallocate to other budgets.
Or could it go into a reserve fund that would be drawn upon for member contributions each year?
I'd have to get back to you with that.
So I always struggle with this as a municipality. I can't even do that. That's what we're doing. I cannot tax someone for something I'm not giving them service for and showing it. And so that's our challenge. I know it's different here, but it's still affecting the taxpayer. So credit at the end of the year.
We're not a municipality, we're a nonprofit, so we're commissioned, so that's not even the same thing, but. Yeah, it's a valid question, I just. There might be some creativity involved, but
Well, that's, yeah, like that's what I'm not sure about, because I know everybody's contributing at different rates based on population and all those things I can't begin to wrap my head around. But it's a big chunk of money that's just sitting there, that if we get to use it, great, but if we don't, it'd be nice to have to be able to say, well, we'll get it back, or it will do X, Y, and Z for us if this doesn't work out.
like there are certain things, like for instance, just to give you an example of creativity. The building you're sitting in is actually bought by solid waste. And rented to planning and human services. Because they had cash and you it. Right, so there's ways of making it work.
Reallocating the funds.
At the end of the day, the funds are taxpayers. You're not forget that.
Yeah.
You can move it around all you want.
Yeah. Good.
Are we thinking that this is something that's gonna happen anyway? Like that sounds pretty positive.
No, that's gonna,
I think it's gonna happen, so I think maybe we're just beating.
we wouldn't be the first in the province to get it, put it that way.
Yeah.
This isn't,
This is how they got the electric cars and.
Yep.
Yeah, this is same program.
Well, it sits in my parking lot, doesn't go anything. Yeah,
And used all the time.
yeah, I mean, you should take hours down there. Are they
I'd
probably
like
there
to see
now?
those minivans for the handy.
Because you get these buses.
In every.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is on that topic, it's very well needed, as long as the funds happen, and it happens.
Yeah,
I don't wanna take it from the tax, like I just said, take the taxpayer and not do it. All right.
I just hope Prairie will use it.
Mhm.
I just hope for, if we're gonna pay him, we're gonna be able to use it, because there's so many stipulations. You know, even your insurance going to the states and stuff for a commercial vehicle, like, you know, but anyways, that's here and there. Our share will probably be quite small anyways.
There's an opportunity for McCabin, for example, that you can, I do the bus and have the other one is a backup, so if we use everybody.
Yeah.
I think there's enough money there that each of the municipalities can probably pick up a van. And provide a new service.
Yeah.
The issue is it comes with a cost, that you're gonna have to maintain the vehicle, you're gonna have to operate it. But I think that's a small price to pay for the benefit that will bring the community.
Well, I think if you have those buses, whoever's running it will have, they're not gonna give it up for free, it'll be a charge, so to help out.
I was surprised when you said your sports teams, and I know that you're not lying to me, because I've seen them home, but our district doesn't allow that, as far as I know. You guys have to go by parents, right?
Yeah.
And they can go. Anyway, there's a lot of restrictions against it, because my son brought a couple of kids home that was their parents giving permission, and he got in trouble at school the next day, and anyway. There's a lot of stipulations for our school district, but it's not what the whole thing is we talked about before, so. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I remember him saying that the kids and I remember him coming home. We're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, this van isn't it's not like one of those small passenger vans, this is
No,
more like a bus.
I remember it's
Small
nice.
bus.
So it's for wheelchair.
It has two wheelchair seating with the lift that takes up. Our van is used all the time, and that's why I think,
We haven't done it.
you know, we've discussed before, but I think the smaller vans provide you that much more flexibility in how you're gonna use it, and there's all those things. I had to redo the brakes on mine. I had two people call me say, you know, I wish you would have told me that the brakes weren't gonna be running on the bus. Well, it just happened that morning, but people plan their activities around renting these vans. And so they're very important to their municipalities. And I think your municipalities will find the same thing. Once you have one or two of these available, they'll be used all the time.
This is a good, this is,
Sharp County, so.
yeah, this is a good example of that, what this table can do. We work together to be able to access and get these, so it proves that last working together, you know, it's a good thing.
We need them. Dollaride has one van
Right.
and it's constantly on the go.
Mhm.
But when it was down, we had a fellow who broke down in St. John. We had a hard time getting home. There were no vans to exchange or get him here.
Mhm.
We managed to get his wheelchair down in the vehicle.
Yeah.
On the tow truck, and we had to bring him back via a car. Well, we've never done that before. But I think if you have the opportunity as a region, then if it's down, I go to it, you know,
Sure.
or to St. Stephen and say, I need to borrow your van.
Yeah.
Yep.
And hopefully it'll be accessible for dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, ones, but you also need drivers, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
So, okay.
No. Let's see.
Okay, so lastly is regional sport recreation cultural infrastructure. This one's pretty straightforward. So yes, the fees are higher, but that's because your assessments are higher. You're getting more back. I don't know how else to put this, but there are no personnel here. There's a little bit of money there for personnel because somebody's got to write the checks and administer it. That's what that is. And otherwise, there's no other recreation services. So
So what's the total for the recreation? Am I seeing that right? Where is it?
796.
It was 798. So didn't we
But
remove something there, too, right?
But your cost sharing part. So last year was 690,000 was the rebates. This year will be 726,000.
With more rebates.
Yeah. I don't know what else to do with that. Unless you want to hire a recreation and trails coordinator, but. Speaking of that, while I'm on that, I think we might. Towards the end of this year, we'll have a solution for those who trail.
Good.
And what we're looking at is possibly setting it up so that a consultant can take on the project lead for next year as a piece of it. So it doesn't die. We just have to, they just have to figure out who ultimately is going to be the caretaker. So anyway, it's not done deal. I had a meeting with the COA and towards marriage culture and Sherry and with the other folks, so.
So
Big plan.
on that, what we discussed, I won't get into it because it was money, but. Before is off the table for Fundy Shores, because we did reach out to Sherry and to Coastal Line.
Keep that communication open, because actually I was even talking to Brian. I had a meeting with Brian and St. Catherine Synergy.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago anyway, and so I was just kind of giving him an update too, but keep the line of communication open, because I think between everybody, we can kind of see this to the finish line.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. I didn't want to go one way and then we're going back a different way now. Okay.
But didn't we remove a chunk though? Or we asked last time we met on that?
We did.
Okay, and that's out.
That's a
Personnel.
Yeah.
To get rid of that cost.
So is the breakdown of municipality on here for the recreation and this?
Yeah, the next page.
Oh, geez.
One of you.
Thanks to you. Okay, I don't know why you didn't get right out of that. Another couple of them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I gotta have it regardless.
Oh, yeah, it should be then.
Right, you just went by, I think it's right before your picture, too. Keep going.
Oh, I think I see it.
Yeah.
I think I see it.
I'm sorry. There you go.
Next step. So where are we here? Steve?
Oh, sorry. Oh, you got it.
Sport and recreation.
That building summary, that'll be in with the budget when we release it. This part,
So I'm up
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
$5,000 more. I read that correct, right?
$5,000 more for what?
Recreation?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Oh, I'm looking at, never mind, I'm looking at yours too. And you're up, so exactly.
Yeah, your rebate is 216.
That's in the bottom corner here, right?
Yeah.
So the reason for this increase is because the rebate is lower. Right? Less of a rebate, is that
The
one?
reason for the increase is because your assessments are high.
I'm stopping with those assessments. I'm just joking.
Who does that in? Who's the one putting them on?
It's like encourage us to grow and then just, it's just challenging.
But I will say on mine though, I know we've heard, I've heard about this plenty. So the whole cost sharing thing, to me, my council will have an issue with. What will make it better, just for on the record, is having a seat at the table of where the money's going with Eastern Charlotte. I believe from the conversations I've had in the last couple of weeks outside of here, that will happen, so we're headed in the right direction. So with that, it'll help ease things, I think, with getting this, but I think that without it, that'll be a big concern for my council, especially as you know, with us in the next 12 months building a facility.
Yeah, then at that point, it's
Then things
Yeah,
change.
then it's gonna,
probably need to revisit it.
right, but, okay, so I just wanted to. I know council has asked me, so I just wanted to be on the record that this was still gonna be an issue, but I think it will be less of an issue. With going to the table with Eastern Charlotte.
Are there any other general comments on the budget?
Cut. Or as you say, sharpen that pencil.
However you want to call it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to distribute the 2025 draft budget to the local government and administer for full review as indicated in the 28.1 of the Regional Service Delivery Act, RSNB 2012, C37. Motion.
We have a second.
I'll second.
I can. Questions and comments?
The only comment, if I can, is that I said this before, but I'm available to all of your councils. If you want me to comment and go through the budget, just let me know.
Can you come to committee of the whole for us next week?
Yeah, probably.
I wanted to get there before I seen everybody looking, so it's next Wednesday, but I'll confirm just to be sure by tomorrow.
You need to email me, don't.
Yeah,
don't-
no, I just.
Or if we're gonna tell somebody, tell Trish, so she'll make sure.
I'll email you tomorrow.
He's got people.
So before Jenny books up all of Hollis's time, are there any other questions on the?
No, and the only comment I'll make is that we're not passing the budget, right? All we need is distributed.
That's correct.
With as it is, or we're gonna be some changes before?
As it is, but it doesn't prevent us from making changes before it's passed.
Yeah, I would imagine all our councils are gonna say the same things that you brought.
Well,
up.
they were, yeah, what they said.
What you were telling me, I've been hearing the same things.
That's the one thing that makes me nervous about this is that we know it's higher than what we're comfortable with. And releasing it higher, I think it tends to, I'm worried it's gonna be a trigger.
Yeah, like
You know what
we
I
made these adjustments and we kind of talked about tonight, it might go through.
Right. But I think maybe that can be the message that we're all responsible for taking back to our councils, is we know that we have to. That we have to sharpen the pencils, make the cuts, whatever terminology we're using on that. Is that a fair statement?
Would it not be, and I could be completely way off, of Hollis going around after council tomorrow, whenever our councils get this to review, and then Hollis comes around to present this, they may have those same concerns we brought up, but then readjust it before. Like a meeting, the next meeting, or is that what you're?
Well,
Instead of
at our next committee, we can make changes.
And then we do the final pass on October 28th,
No,
29th. Yeah,
It's not far away.
yeah.
You're expecting to get to 5 or 6 meetings or.
45 days.
45 days. It's nothing for me.
Yeah.
Have Carl try.
All right, any other question, comments on this motion? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Do we need to do anything with the notice of motion? Or
No,
that's just,
I had to have that in writing.
okay. Okay, we did the Eastern Charlotte tourism motion, so now we're up to committee and staff reports, which is the CEO report from Hollis.
Okay, I'll go through a little bit about, you have it in your packages there, but for the benefit of the public, I always put these graphs on the front of the last 3 years of waste, so you can see the trends that are happening. What do I like to say about that other than, yes, we are trending lower, and it's obviously because we lost that one particular piece of business in USA. But also overall, you'll see that between 2023 and this year, that it's lower. And that's because the trend I was saying, that there's just less garbage. Other updates, there's a picture there of that cell that we are completing. Including the liner on. Other news, it's a little bit of a good news story, is that for years and years, we've always taken recycling for we've always taken electronics for recycling, sorry. Now, we never get paid for it, it's just something we did. Now, we're gonna get paid for it, we're part of the program. They've given us this nice, pretty container. She's coming tomorrow, is that right? To do training for the staff on what to do with that, and when we get paid, we'll do anything for it. Now, we don't get enough electronics that we're gonna get rich. But it's nice to know we're getting something for it, and we're part of the program.
That's good news.
So planning. What I did this time was I put in where we are as the normal draft that I put in the amount of building permits and that type of thing, but I also compared it to 2023. And you can see we're almost, it's not very different from 2023. And that was kind of the point I was trying to make. It seems to be, you hit the plateau there. Depends on where the economy goes, I guess, or how many new people move to the area, where that goes from here, but it seems like it's flat. It's still brisk though. They're still flat out busy with everything. So the planners themselves, right now are into the St. Andrews municipal plans, doing some background research. St. Stephen, background research is complete, so they're going to present to council, and we're going to start public consultation. Campobello, background research complete, and public consultations in October. Graham Ann's plan is in background research, general improvements on the rural plan. Fundy Shores, rural plans and revisions to meet council directives. And working on completing second round of housing accelerator fund applications for anyone that agrees to be part of that request. I expect we'll see some better success this time.
And that was some stuff that's supposed to be in tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I think you want to make sure.
Yeah.
I just had to know it's emailed. I don't know if our lady did or not, thankfully.
Yeah.
We got her done. I think we.
And I've got a little graph in there about some of the enforcement activity we've been doing. Moving on, so forward of promotion, a little bit of information about what's been happening there. The website is active and up and running. I'll be able to present actual statistics from that particular website probably next meeting. I would not expect miracles where it's brand new, but there is some promotion happening to kind of kickstart that. There are discussions with the tourism committee met. So they're talking about the winter campaigns. One of the directions they're looking at is extending the tourism season for the region, so it's not just summer and fall, like there are winter activities, so there's lots of. So they're looking at what that might look like in terms of messaging. Yeah, several other things you can read about there. The niche cruise port thing's interesting. I'd like to see where this goes in the next year. Just because, as we all know, there was a cruise ship close to Canterville here recently.
Here's a big one too, the picture, I see the pictures, it was pretty.
Yeah. Did they tender over? Is that what happened? Did they?
There were some, I don't know if they did it legally or not, but there were some to Roosevelt, some of the people.
Okay.
I don't know if it was, 'cause sometimes you'll see boats from Eastport go to Roosevelt, but they're not the same ones as that new walking ferry, so I have no idea whether they're actually calling customs or not, but I mean, those people there was a couple boats into Roosevelt from that ship.
Yeah.
Really?
Whether they did it the right way or not, the right way, I don't know, but they was there, so it would be a.
So, yeah, it's
It could
interesting
be,
to follow up on because,
Yeah.
you know, maybe not that size, because
That was pretty big.
that was a 4,000 passenger ship.
But that being said, if they've got decent sized tenders, or they could hire tenders, they could get to St. Andrews pretty easy.
Yeah.
I know there's not a lot on the around, but there's some stuff, you know what I mean, and technically, they could even get St. Stephen, because as long as they could get a boat that could get into the dock there to Pizza Light, right? So it's not a,
Oh, not that big boat.
no, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about
Tender.
a tender boat though.
Oh, like,
You know what I
okay.
mean, like a smaller one, I mean, there is options, or they could go to Bayside and. You know, a tender and yeah, take one of these buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's definitely something that could be.
it's something a lot of people have been talking about.
There's a lot of challenges around it.
There
Having
is,
been
I know.
on the other side of it, it's a tough market.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of regulatory issues around.
Oh, they can hire from some places too.
Where they enter the country, how many stops, where the port of origin is, I think there's a real opportunity for it, but it's a tough job.
There'll be some hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, we're pretty fortunate to have a border agency right there, so some of it we can get around, but some of it will be hard, you know.
Some of it they wouldn't do because you have land border agents, not marine border agents.
I think we got both,
Do you have both now?
well, not full time, but we have both.
Well, and
Yeah,
there's
something
something
to do with that.
Something to call. So community development. So with the grant writer, we did a lot of research up front to create kind of a database of what's available and deadlines and qualifications, that type of thing. He's assisted with 38 grant applications for projects so far, focusing on some strategic priorities. He's collaborated with 64 different stakeholders and partners in the region. And he is available to, he has been reaching out to municipalities. I don't know how much you have been informed of that, but that's something we're gonna go forward more on, like more of a concentration.
I kind of expected someone to reach out and say that I'd like to introduce this, have the council and introduce himself and get them connected.
Yeah, I think a couple of groups home might have already reached out.
They come in Wednesday,
I
I
think.
think, council, well, night.
Yeah.
We might call them in for the budget.
Okay. So there is a piece of our website has one thing that he did was there's a grant support services. So basically this is making what they call tombstone data. So it's a template for a lot of grant applications that contains all your data. So we have an online version of that now. And there's several other activities that he's been working on, but I would expect to hear from him more as municipalities in the year, if you haven't already. OBT4, they're getting input from around the province and the gathering. They don't want to release it. I had a meeting with ESIC yesterday, actually. They were here in town. But the timing is weird around elections and stuff with this, so. That should be coming up in the fall. That kind of depends on election and then how things hit, and then as they're gonna be going to their minister, whoever that is. There may be some changes, so. School food program support project is collaborating on that. There is some governance workshops coming up. Partnered with our economic development. I recommend anybody that's involved in any nonprofits to attend these. If they're, even if you know everything about governance, and I've never met the person that does, but there's lots of really good information there, and so I encourage anybody to attend if you can. It goes for municipal too. And it is ongoing stuff that he's been doing. The Regional Resiliency Committee, actually, they were here just before you guys. They wrapped up about 3:30 in this room. So Rhonda said, "Do I have to come tonight?" I said, no, we're okay for tonight. Transportation. So again, there's some increased ESIC funding coming for Dalrite. We are forming a little thing. I say we, it's mostly Ray. Forming a little thing between all of our transportation providers that we have now. We got a little bit of money for a transportation scan for the region. So the collaborations between what do they call it, Cary, and Project Village and Dalrite, and trying to get, they seem to want to work together well. So if there's things that Dalrite can't do because it's immediate need, they'll go to Cary. Different things like that happen. So anything we do to make that better. And I include some statistics from our own website so you can see we get lots of traffic. In the last 6 months, there's 17,000. No, sorry, 21,000 first-time visitors. So anyway, we do well on our own website. Every time you go Google something about, like say, building inspection or something, we end it right up there. I wasn't trying. it just happened. And that is my report, manager.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I think we kind of did that as we went through, but. Okay. Financial update is the next thing.
We just need blabbering on tonight.
You did seem to get the lion's share of the votes.
You got lucky. So there's 3 documents. There's a balance statement. Mark also included some graphs, some additional graphs on the solid waste, which breaks down the types of waste and things like that. Those are interesting to look at. I'm glad he's doing that. Probably the most important one to pay attention to is the summary statement, because that gives you a real picture of where we are, our actuals, and then I've only got to the end of July here. Our actuals compared to our annual budget. We're running a modest surplus, $200,000 right now, surplus. There's nothing out of whack or that I actually feel I should point out here, because there's nothing really out of the ordinary. It's really pretty much following the budget as it's been laid out. But I'm happy to take any questions.
Guessing we're budgeted out already.
Good. You need a motion made for transfer money.
I do. So we put money into reserve at the end of last year. If you recall, we did that for the surpluses I had for economic development and tourism promotion. We pulled out the tourism promotion surplus back in February. I never did anything with the economic development one of our needs-based bills, so you wouldn't mind.
I'll move that we transfer $110,000 from the Regional Economic Development Services Reserve Fund to the Regional Economic Development Services Operating Fund.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. So upcoming meetings, we have a committee of the whole meeting, September 26th. another committee of the whole meeting on October tenth. We'll have a board meeting on the 24th, which puts us back on our regular schedule. And we're also having a special meeting now on October 29th that will be virtual. That cover everything for everyone? Okay.
29th Zoom, that's just a quick one.
That's like-
Okay.
We'll just do-
I hope so.
Yeah.
What time? Did we?
6 o'clock,
Sure.
does that work?
So that's just gonna be a
So
Zoom
just-
call, we're not coming. Okay.
What is the voting procedure in the budget this year? Is it the population and
I need 2/3 majority,
two-thirds majority?
representing 51% of the population. It used to be 2/3 representing 2/3. They changed that, so it's 2/3 representing 51%. And it's a simple vote, it's not a weighted.
It's not weighted. Yes.
Okay. Any Q and A from the public? Guess it's next. Okay,
That was the year.
I knew you wanted that.